Hello everyone and welcome on De Papier de Rêve channel. I'm Ursula and today I will be painting with you some lily ponds. Lily pads are quite a common subject for me. First because I love the Impressionist style, and of course I love Monet and his series of lily pads in Giverny. So it's quite normal for me to try to paint them and give them my styles in the painting with still an inspiration of Impressionist style. I've painted a lily pad I think a year ago, if I'm not mistaken, and I will put the link in the description box if you are interested to watch it. And it's quite an unusual subject for me in my sketchbook, and I'm trying quite a lot of ways to paint them. And today I wanted to try something else with my lily pads painting, something more impressionistic. I'm taking great influence with the impressionistic style, and I'm playing with colors today. So I've started with the violet color, which represents the water, and I painted on my paper, but my paper was tilted so that the gravity can play a role with pigments. I'm using ultramarine blue today instead of indent rain blue, and ultramarine blue is a very granulating color, so when you use gravity with this color you can have a lot of effects on the paper. And even though I have a hot press paper which is totally flat and without any hole and texture to it, the granulating color will still make some marks on it, like sand, and I do really like this effect. So my first layer is very blurry. You cannot recognize the lily pads whatsoever right now, but that's okay. I wanted to just place the color where I want it to be and have first impression of my painting in the first layer, and with the layer after I will add some details and you will be able to recognize the lily pad at the end. So now I'm starting the second layer, and I'm using a lot of negative painting in order to make the flower of the lily pads appearing on the paper. And I will also use the same technique for defining a little bit more the leaves of the lily pads on the water, but it's very blurry. There is a lot of leaves in this pond in my reference picture, so I don't want to paint all of them. I just want you to know that there is a lot of them. So you will be able to recognize one or two, but you will have the impression that there is so many more in this picture. All my painting is based on 3 colors, and I will add 2 more a little bit later, but I've used ultramarine blue, rose madder lake and nickel azure yellow. It's a triad of primary color, in fact, and I can make a lot of color with them. And it was the first time I mix nickel azure yellow with ultramarine blue, and I do like that mix very much because of the granulation of ultramarine blue. The yellow is peeking through the blue in the green, and it's really beautiful. And that mix of ultramarine blue and nickel azure yellow is quite bright, but if I add a tiny bit of rose madder lake to my mix, I get a bit duller green, and it's working great for shadows and adding a little bit more interest in the leaves. And at this triad of color, I'm also using Lavender from Daniel Smith, which is an opaque color. All the others are really transparent, but it allows me to get a little bit more power in the violet in some area, and I can also paint above greens with this color and it will still show. And while this layer is drying, let's talk about supplies. For the brushes, I've used Escoda Aquario number 18, and for the colors, I've used Ultramarine blue, Rose Madder Lake, Lavender, Nickel Azo Yellow, and at the end I will add a tiny bit of Payne's Grey. And my paper is Canson Héritage in hot pressed. In this last layer I will be adding a lot of details, and I will build contrast in order to make the leaves and flower pop a little bit more in the painting. But I wanted to talk a little bit more about the lavender color I've talked just before the supplies list. I think it's a really nice color to have, and it's okay to have opaque color in your transparent watercolor colors, because even though transparent colors are very interesting and they mix well together, and you can have lots of really nice colors with them, sometimes you want a color that pop a little bit more on top of darker color. And it's just what I want with my lavender color. I'm using it in some area where there is already darker color, and if it were transparent you couldn't be able to see the lavender color, but as it is opaque, so you are able to see it, and it adds a little bit of depth also, and texture, and it's really an interesting color. But you have to use it sparingly, because if you put too much you will blur all your painting. So for this last layer, as I say, I'm adding a darker color so that I can get a little bit more definition around some leaves, and contrast, so that everything is a little bit more present and there is a depth in my painting. And I do like to add a little bit of Payne's Grey, but really a little bit, in the violet color that I use for shadowing the leaves, so that the color is a little bit darker and the contrast a little bit stronger. As you can see, you can recognize some leaves of lily pad by small details, but they are totally overlapping one another, and it's really a big mess. But the impression of tons of leaves of lily pad is here, and that's why that's what I was looking for. So it's quite interesting, and I'm very happy to achieve that in this painting. So I have a contrast in color, dark against light color in this painting, but I also built a contrast of colors with the blue-violet colors and the yellow-green colors. And what sits in at the foreground is a bit more green, and the more I'm going away from the foreground and I'm going in the background, there is a lot more of violet colors, and this adds a lot of depth in my painting, and you have this impression of a very big water pond where my lily are sitting. So I'm really very happy with this painting. I wasn't expecting to be successful on this one, but everything went super well, and I'm really glad of it. And I hope I will be able to paint this subject with the same energy and impression that I had today. And this video is now ending. Thanks for watching. I hope you like it. Please tell me what you think about it in the comments, and take a look at the blog post for more information about it. The link is in the description below. See you soon.